Let's welcome in retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant General and Michigan Congressman Jack Bergman. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. First off, thank you for your service as well. So stolen valor, it's a really serious accusation, and that's what J.D. Vance is saying about Walz, because here is what Walz said, and I'm quoting here: "We can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at." The problem is, as we know, he did not go to war. What do you make of this, Congressman?
Well, Walz is the master of shading the truth. If you've all seen the movie Wizard of Oz, and you know the old saying where at the end where it says "pay no attention to the man behind the curtain," well, Walz is the man behind the curtain, and he's been blustering his way through the political world for a very long time. And I would suggest to you, because I served in both active Marine Corps, Reserve Marine Corps, and Rhode Island Army Guard over my period of time in service, over 40 years. And there were some folks that were just great folks, but they had no interest in doing anything other than wearing the uniform for a while and then using it for some other stepping stone to something. Not necessarily bad people, but they weren't honest people. And when you get into the situation where you're running to become the Vice President of the United States, #2 in command, you better have your act together, and it better be truthful, and don't embellish what you did or didn't do just to serve your own personal end. And I think Walz right now, as we look at his record, shows that he didn't do what he said he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you served 40 years, as you just mentioned. How does it make you feel when you hear his claims, when you hear him say the things that he does?
Well, as I was listening earlier to Derek Van Orden talk, I think Walz needs to just beg forgiveness, because we're all God's people, #1. But he's lied. So it makes me feel kind of like going back to the, John Kerry and I are not that far apart in age. Mm-hmm. And the Swift boat, veterans called him out for his embellishment of his Vietnam service. So I think it's time that the American people know that what they've got here is Tim Walz, the imposter. And Tim just needs to say, hey, I lied. I made it up. And now will you still have me as your vice president? I think maybe the answer will be no, because you can't lie at that level.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And now we have Democrats who are clearly either misinformed or just choosing to ignore the facts surrounding J.D. Vance's military service as they try to defend Walz. Take a listen to this.
Well, here is Tim Walz, who enlisted when he was 17 years old. He served in the National Guard for 24 years. And I'm not aware of any military service that J.D. Vance has ever served. So let's just make the comparison there. And what happened in the tragedy of the killing of George Floyd and then the unrest. Yeah, okay, pardon me for that.
Yeah, so as we know, Vance was a Marine deployed to Iraq in 2005. My issue with that is we just played that, and we're showing senators don't take the time to learn about a candidate. How can we be assured that the American people will? When Kamala selected Walz, an NPR poll showed that only 70% of Americans they've never heard of the guy.
Yeah, for a senator, for anyone, especially someone in public office who has hopefully established trust with the American people, to say what they just did, if you don't know your details, keep your mouth shut. That's in short supply, that ability in Washington, D.C., because I guarantee if there's one addiction other than opiates that we need to deal with, at least in Washington, D.C., is the addiction to microphones and talking when you don't know what you're talking about. We all can be subject to it. Never miss an opportunity to keep your mouth shut until you know the truth. And too many politicians don't exercise that trait.